7. Arnold Rothstein, January 17, 1882 to November 6, 1928, nicknamed The Brain, was an American racketeer, crime boss, businessman, and gambler who became a kingpin of the Jewish mob in New York City. Jewish-American mob boss who inspired a character in The Great Gatsby and was portrayed in the series Boardwalk Empire. Rothstein was widely reputed to have organized corruption in professional athletics, including conspiring to fix the 1919 World Series. Arnold Rothstein was born into a comfortable life in Manhattan, the son of an affluent Ashkenazi Jewish businessman, Abraham Rothstein, and his wife Esther. He worked for a while as a traveling salesman, but when he started hanging out in neighborhood pool halls, he became lured by a life of crime. Rothstein started out small, gambling and acting as a loan shark to the locals, but it wasn't long before he had befriended some high-level politicos, businessmen, and crime figures. His connections placed him in an interesting position, one residing between crime and the law, and he began acting as a fixer, someone who smoothed over the rocky relationships between those breaking the law and those who had sworn to uphold it. He also became something of a gambling legend during this time, amassing winnings that led to his big bankroll nickname and propensity for carrying a large wad of $100 bills. Rothstein reputedly rigged most of the games that led to his winnings, and he perpetuated that idea by quipping that he'd bet on anything but the weather since he couldn't control it. He was also a mentor of future crime bosses Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, Bugsy Siegel, and numerous others. About Frank Costello, we covered Biography separately for other mentioned crime bosses in this series. Frank Costello, born Francesco Castiglia, January 26, 1891 to February 18, 1973, was an Italian-American crime boss of the Luciano crime family. Born in Italy, he moved with his family to the United States as a child. As a youth, he joined New York City gangs. Working with Charlie Lucky Luciano, Costello was involved in bootlegging operations during Prohibition. In 1929, they joined the National Crime Syndicate. From 1937, Costello was acting boss of the Luciano crime family. In the 1950s, he spent several years in prison for tax evasion. Costello retired in 1957 after he had survived an assassination attempt ordered by Vito Genovese. 1919 World Series and Prohibition, Rothstein eventually opened a Manhattan casino and invested in racetracks, his earnings moving him into the big leagues. By the time he was 30, Rothstein was a millionaire and setting his sights on grander schemes, one of which would make him infamous. The 1919 World Series found the Chicago White Sox playing the Cincinnati Reds, and a plot was underway to rig the series. Rothstein was approached by groups involved in the scheme, and he was asked to finance the bribery of several White Sox players. In the end, the White Sox, known thereafter as the Black Sox, threw the series, with Rothstein believed to have earned approximately $350,000 by betting on the Reds. An investigation revealed that Abe Attell, a friend and employee of Rothstein's, was involved in making payments to White Sox players, but Rothstein vehemently denied any involvement and was never indicted. The following year, Prohibition became law, and Rothstein was one of the first to get involved with smuggling liquor into the country and to illegal drinking establishments. The booze business proved too much to juggle and not profitable enough, so Rothstein soon turned his attention to the narcotics industry. Death. By the mid-1920s, Rothstein was the financial kingpin of the American narcotics trade, and he had under his employ some of the most notorious mobsters of the era. Frank Costello, Jack Legs Diamond, Lucky Luciano, and Dutch Schultz were all part of Rothstein's crew. The high times would come to an end, however, when Rothstein entered a poker game at Manhattan's Park Central Hotel. Before the night was over, Rothstein had been shot and discovered at the service entrance of the hotel. Police followed the trail of blood back to the poker game, still in progress. Rothstein, in keeping with the gangster code, refused to say who shot him. He died shortly afterward, on November 6, 1928, and no one was ever convicted of his murder. Film and television. In the 1930 film Street of Chance, William Powell played a gambler who is shot after cheating in a poker game. The film was widely recognized as being based on the murder of Arnold Rothstein. With the fictional name of Murray Golden, he was portrayed by Spencer Tracy in the 1934 film Now I'll Tell, loosely based on the autobiography of wife and widow Carolyn Green Rothstein, or Mrs. Arnold Rothstein, as the film's title card reads. He was portrayed in the 1960 film The Rise and Fall of Legs Diamond by actor Robert Lowery. In the 1961 film The Big Bankroll, King of the Roaring Twenties, The Story of Arnold Rothstein, by David Jansen. In the 1991 film Mobsters by F. Murray Abraham. In the 1999 biopic Lansky by Stanley DeSantis.